Hello and welcome to today's session. I hope you're all doing amazingly well from whichever part of the world you are watching. Today, I continue to speak to my wellness director friends who want to transition into a consulting role. So, today I'll be talking about exit route 3, the strategic consultant route, where you have high stakes but unlimited impact that you can make in your projects. So, just to refresh your memory, or for those of you who are watching me new, this is the third session in a three-part series where I am speaking to wellness directors who want to transition into consulting role. And I'm talking about the three exit routes or the three exit strategies that are available to you. So the first exit strategy or the first exit route is what I call the internal consultant route. And that is also the softest landing. So you are already part of a hotel group or a small hotel or an organization. You are probably also the person who helped set up that entire wellness offering, and you have a fantastic relationship with your team, with other colleagues, and also the owners. And that's why it makes so much sense for you to actually transition into that consulting role if you want more growth and if you want to focus more on strategic aspects instead of just only the day to day operations. And I call that the softest landing because you know the actual terrain. You're the one who set up the wellness offering. And on top of that, you've already built a relationship with your colleagues, your team, and your owners. So you don't need to figure out the ins and outs or the nuances of that particular operation. And nor do you need to do all the hard work to create that solid relationship with the key people. What you can focus on is purely the consulting part. So, what it feels like to go from being that operations lead to being the strategic lead, because that is a different skill set. So, I call that exit route one kind of the softest landing and highly recommended for those who are already in a place where they can transition into a more strategic role within the company they already are in. Then the second exit route is what I call the projects based consultant. So this route has higher income potential and it also has more adventure. And that projects based consultant is the person who works on a particular project for a specific time and they have a specific deliverable. For example, you're hired to open a spa in a certain location, or you're hired to be the interim director of a specific spa covering maternity leave forever, for instance, or you could also be that person who's accompanying an operation and helping them through a refurbishment. Those are just examples. So you have a fixed start date and a fixed end date, and there's a very clear deliverable that you are responsible or you're held to. And that is what I call the second step up, because over there, when you reach that second exit route strategy, you need to have built this pipeline of clients. So projects that you can go from one place to the other all year round. So you need to have built that sales pipeline in order to have these projects lined up. And today, I'm going to end with the last exit strategy that I've kind of christened as the strategic consultant. And this is the most complex exit strategy. But you have the potential to have unlimited impact in these projects. That said, with the unlimited impact you can make, that potential for that also comes high stakes. And this route is not about being the cat's meow when it comes to wellness operations or being that wellness expert or that person who knows every single therapy out there. It is about dominating business skills because ultimately you have a business. And what your business does is deliver results to your clients. Now, I work with hoteliers, so I say hotels, but you can also work with standalone centers. You can work with other businesses that want to implement wellness. It could be real estate, for example. The options are, you have a world of options out there right now because nearly every single industry or company wants to implement wellness or make money using wellness. So today I want to talk about this last exit strategy, the strategic consultant, where the stakes are high and you have unlimited impact, the potential to make unlimited impact. Now, over these last few weeks, I've had several of you reach out to me on LinkedIn via DM and ask me, so how long did it take you to get and enjoy the success you have today? Like what I have, I set up my company 18 years ago. So that was in December 2007. And it has certainly been one amazing roller coaster ride. And I've also had to go back into full time employment twice because I couldn't make ends meet. And it was never because I lacked that pipeline of clients. It's because I didn't know how to run the business. I didn't know how to charge my clients. And I didn't even know how to actually get paid from my clients. Is one thing charging, and it's another thing that they pay you and on time. So it's been a huge learning curve, nearly 2 decades worth. But for those of you who want to know, when did I actually get success as this strategic consultant? It took me 14 years, 1 4, 14 years out of those 18 years to get to the point where I say, yes, this is it. I have nailed what strategic consultancy is about. And I repeat, it is not about the projects you work on, it's how you are showing up as that business owner. So I also want to say, I'd also like to put a little kind of note out there. I came to, the consulting world already having a very solid grip of business. So I had been part of Goldman Sachs. I'd been a financial analyst in Goldman Sachs for a number of years before I transitioned into wellness. And I was well groomed when it came to numbers, to strategy. And I was also very lucky when I got into the wellness industry. I held very senior positions. I also got to enjoy being a regional spa director and also a global spa director. So I actually did have that a very solid base. And within each of these companies, I had built a fantastic relationship with all the key people, the vice presidents, the owners, my teams, even my guests. And I worked for very top brands. So if this must be resonating with you, and you've probably followed a similar path, I already came from that very solid business background. And yet, when I leapt into full time consulting, I can assure you, I made mistakes that nearly ended my career as a consultant. I can assure you, there were times where I had to go back into full time employment twice, and not only for 1 or 2 months or a projects based role. I had to go back for large stints, so 2 years in a row, to go back and get myself into stable situation. And even despite that, I kept my business running and I also taught English. So I had to work very hard to keep my business as a strategic consultant alive. And if there is one thing you take from this entire series of these 3 exit strategies that I've talked about, is that being a wellness expert, so you can actually be the cat's meow or the dog's bollocks when it comes to wellness businesses. You know how to manage them, you know how to make them lucrative. But being that wellness expert is not the same as being a wellness consultant. It's a completely different ballgame. And This last exit strategy, the strategic consultant, looks glamorous. I am not going to lie. The potential to earn insane amounts of money is high. You have the creative freedom. You have the industry recognition. You are the one who's finally calling the shots. Wellness is finally the person who's actually leading key hospitality projects. But behind the scenes, I can assure you, most people who jump into exit route 3 too quickly fail within 18 months to 3 years. Now, let me explain why. So, before that, let me say, let's rewind and say, what exactly is a strategic consultant? So, as a strategic consultant, you are no longer that operator. So, you're no longer managing day to day operations. You're no longer putting out the fires. You're actually the person who's building a business. You're an entrepreneur. And as part of your services, you are helping other businesses optimize their businesses using wellness. And you're no longer the director who's managing your team. You're not putting out operational fires. You are that visionary of the entire wellness concept. You're the one who's guiding its implementation. And you are the one who's helping properties use wellness as the seal of differentiation in the entire market. And that's what I do now. From here, my home office here in Madrid, a very hot Madrid, and I work from my home office here in Madrid across projects in all parts of the world. And I create concepts. I'm the one who's shaping strategy, and I help properties reposition wellness as a serious revenue driver. And that is what strategic consulting is about. But it took me 14 years to be precise, to get here. So let me talk about the pros and cons of this route. So there are many pros. I will not hide that. Success is sweet when you get to this point. And here is what makes this route so worth it. So I've talked a lot about the slog to get here, the mistakes I made, but there are so many positives. And these positives include the income potential. It really is unlimited. So you're no longer trading your hours for money. You are selling expertise. You're selling vision. You're selling transformation. You're solving problems. And one strategic project can generate the equivalent of multiple years of salary. That is how one project can completely change your trajectory. And that's the value of being that strategic consultant. The other positive about being the strategic consultant is if you're anything like me and you are creative, you have complete creative control. So you finally get to say no to compromises and yes to projects that align with your values. You build concepts that you believe in. You're no longer cutting corners because your GM doesn't believe in it, or your hotel manager doesn't believe in it, or the regional VP doesn't believe in it, or the owners. You don't need to compromise in these circumstances. You can create the concepts you want, and you can see them come to life just the way you had envisioned them. And that is a beautiful feeling. You also get industry recognition. So your work starts to set benchmarks. Now, you don't go out with the idea of them becoming these industry benchmarks, but they end up becoming that. And I've had the joy of seeing my clients featured in key industry magazines. I've seen their wellness revenue hit beyond 40% of total hotel revenue. And I've also seen these properties become wellness destinations in of themselves. And there is also this extra thrill that you get when your the projects you have worked on become that model, or where very renowned hotels use your framework, your methodology to talk about the success they've had with wellness. Because deep down, you know that you were the person who is responsible for raising that bar. And that recognition is sweet. At the end of the day, we're all human, and getting that recognition when you're working so tirelessly to raise the bar is a very sweet feeling, as I say. And also, being that strategic consultant, and once you've had enough success stories under your belt, you also have global opportunity. So this opens doors that you could have never expected. You know, I've worked across all continents, from the Pacific to Asia to Africa to North and South America. And where one person has seen, one hotelier has seen the success of wellness in one location, suddenly in another part of the world, they are seeing that project and they're reaching out to you. And also, our industry is growing at a pace that's just mind blowing. And there are people out there doing amazing things with wellness. They want to do those things and they need the right strategic help. They need the right expertise to show them how to use wellness. And then suddenly you find you're being called into board meetings, you're being called in to be part of boards that actually shape wellness in specific markets, in specific areas. That is a beautiful feeling when you get that opportunities you would have never even dreamt of because of all the success. You know, you've built success over success over success. And lastly, with this, you also get to choose the clients you want to work with. In the beginning, it's more challenging. But once you've built that solid foundation, you also get to call the shots on who do you like to work with. I distinctly remember it took me, to be precise, probably 15 or, yeah, nearly 15 years to actually say no to clients and to fire clients. I remember it was in 2024 where I fired, no, 2023, I think, where I fired, or 2024, I can't remember. Time flies, probably a year ago only, where I could actually fire clients that I no longer aligned with, even when they paid me a substantial amount of money. We just didn't align. And it feels nice where you can choose who you want to work with, and money is no longer the object. What moves you is, I've got my bills covered. And you know what? I no longer want to work with you. I want to work with people I want to work with. And that is what strategic consulting gives you, that freedom of choice. Once you've built enough success under your belt, you choose who you want to work with and you choose what projects you want to work with. And that freedom of choice, at least for me, is something that has been worth gold. And it took me a very long time to get here. But I can also say that there are a few downsides. Being that strategic consultant isn't for everyone. And I think it's also important to mention the downsides of this route so that you really know what's at stake here before you actually embark on it, or before you try to doggedly make it work. Because knowing the nuances of each of these exit strategies lets you choose what is the one that best works for your life goals. So the number one downside I would say about this particular route is it's business over wellness. So It's not about the most beautiful concept that you can actually build. It's about being that business owner and you're strategically pitching for a project and you are aligned or you are alongside quite strong consultants who have more experience, more collective experience, more resources, and it's tough. It's tough. You might be the best person to actually create that concept. But what the owner will see is, can this person deliver? Do they have the cash flow to do that? Do they have the resources? So when you become that strategic consultant, what trumps is your business acumen. And when I say your business acumen, not how to make a wellness business successful, it's how you make your business successful. And that's what will always trump over your wellness knowledge. The other downside is that it's a lonely place to be at. When you are working in day-to-day operations, even when you are the project-based consultant or the internal consultant, you are surrounded by your clients' teams and you have that support. And it feels brilliant because you know what? You don't get far in life if you don't have a support network. But once you become that strategic consultant, you're already stepping back a bit and you no longer have that day-to-day contact with the teams. And you actually can't have it if you're going to do your job well. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have good relationship with people, you don't foster those relationships. I'm not saying that. What I'm trying to say is that you take a step back. You're actually going at a higher level and you're communicating at a very different level. And that level of intimacy that you have with the wellness teams becomes more detached. And it is lonely. It's lonely being at this place. And also, you get to this point when you've gone into this kind of rabbit hole. You sometimes have gone so deep in it, it's very difficult to get out of it. So it's important to understand that this route is pretty much when you are going on your own and you are required to be slightly detached from the day-to-day operations in order to have the objectivity to make that wellness business a success and to deliver those clients of yours, the return on investment that you have promised them. The other downside is, this is the one that I most struggled with. It's what I call the income roller coaster. And this is the one where I found there were months where one big project wrapped up with another. You have different payments of different phases, and sometimes you have to follow up the right people. So when you are that strategic consultant, you are the person who's actually executing, doing the work when you're a smaller company. You're the person who is selling and marketing. And at the same time, you're also the person who's raising your invoices and you're the person who's following up on them. And, it becomes difficult because you're dealing with someone's director of finance. And that is when you have that income roller coaster between when you raise your invoices and when you also get paid. And also when you are working on a project for such a long time, there are times when you're more involved, hence you're probably charging more at that point. And there are other times where you are less involved, which means you get paid less. And that income roller coaster is very, very difficult to deal with. And also, I'd like to say that within the financial roller coaster or this income roller coaster, I would also add this route is not recommended for someone if you don't have a good buffer or if you have someone who depends on you for financial stability. So this route, you definitely have those ups and downs when it comes to earning. And that can be quite disconcerting at times. The other cons to this, the other downsides are pricing mistakes. because everyone is just copying everyone. At least that's what I saw when I started this industry. What are you charging? What's your daily rate? What's this? What's that? And you end up copying what everyone else is charging, and you're charging the market rate. And sometimes you go lower, sometimes you go higher. You don't really understand how things work. And those pricing mistakes means you either overcharge sometimes more than what the market really would or should be paying for it, or sometimes you severely underprice. So I remember it took me a long time to actually nail my pricing. And you also have to allow for those pricing mistakes to happen. And another mistake, or I think another downside, I'd say, is what I call the talent gap. Um, this is what I faced as I grew as a consultant. There's only so much time and so many numbers of hours I have in the day. And when I started to need help on my projects, I found that it was so hard to find the right talent. There's so many amazing wellness directors out there, but they're good in day-to-day operations. They don't know what's required when it comes to be a consultant and deliver consulting projects. And on top of that, the prices they charge sometimes are substantially higher than the prices you charge your clients because they themselves don't know how to price at this stage. So that talent gap can be incredibly difficult when you're at that stage where you're oversubscribed. You have so much volume of work and you need to delegate something or you need to get new team members in. And that's when it gets so difficult because people either don't have the experience or those that do have the experience, you can't afford them. So it becomes, there is that a point of tension where once you grow to a certain point and you need to get more people, it is very challenging, at least in my experience. And lastly, the long game. You don't get to charge premium rates just starting off. It takes a long time to nail how to deliver amazing results. It takes time to charge those premium fees. It takes time to create your sales pipeline. It takes time to market and sell yourself. It takes time to establish yourself as an industry leader. And not because you worked with X number of brands as a wellness director or a regional wellness director or a global wellness director. It takes time when you yourself, so me, myself, and I had to go and create my name in the market compared to other bigger names. That takes time. So you really have to enjoy being an entrepreneur and delivering wellness experiences and navigating all the challenges that go with having a business and also making a wellness business successful. You have to navigate all those challenges. And there is no shortcut for that, but time. And that is so important, that patience. So this is why I never recommend anyone to go straight to exit route 3. Most wellness directors who try it fail, and they fail miserably, and not because they lack talent. That's the sad thing. They're actually incredibly talented and could be very solid strategic consultants. But it's because they have skipped building that foundation, and you have to want it because there are tough moments in the business, and what helps you get past that river of misery is precisely that desire to want to be this strategic consultant. So that is why I normally recommend start off with exit route 1. Be that internal consultant if you have that available to you. Then go on to exit route 2, which is the project space consultant, or go directly onto project space consultant if that is something that is available to you. If you have created those relationships and you know you can do that, you know people who would hire you for that. Go to exit routes 1 and 2 first. Try them out. They will help you build the business muscles you need also the case studies and the financial security that you need. And only then can you say, okay, I'm going to head off to be that strategic consultant. So, how do you know if you're ready to become that strategic consultant? You know you're ready if you've got at least 10 years experience in leadership, in wellness, and you've managed multiple properties, multiple regions, so you understand the nuances in a very diverse set of businesses. And you've got or are building those entrepreneurial skills. Now, that doesn't mean you're a solid business leader. It means you need those entrepreneurial skills, sales and marketing, organization. And you can survive at least 12 to 18 months with very sporadic, erratic income. And you've already built yourself a strong industry reputation. So if you can tick all those boxes, you're ready. But if you're running away from operational stresses, or you're hoping that wellness expertise in its own will carry you, I can assure you it will not. You'll need a foundation that is a lot more solid than that. So I hope this brings us to the end of the three-part series on the exit strategy available to wellness directors who want to transition from that operational role into consulting role. And you just don't know, what route to take, what options are available out there. So I really hope that these three exit strategies have, shed the light on what is available to you. What are the pros and cons of each of these strategies, and which is the strategy that most resonates with you? So you will be finding out soon. I'm launching the new Wellness Consultant Blueprint. So it is my program offering those wellness directors the roadmap to actually become the consultant, to have that freedom of income, freedom of time, and freedom of choice also. So I'll be sharing more about the Wellness Consultant Blueprint in the coming weeks. And in the meantime, I wish you all a beautiful day ahead. Take care now.